wait about 10 seconds for people to get in, and I wanted to share some interesting revelations that I've learned. Let's quiet that down. I'm gonna wait about 5 more seconds, and I'm going to begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I've been researching a little bit about this Steve Scalise shooting of the Republicans, and a lot of information has come out that's just too interesting for me not to share. I've been trying to keep quiet about a few things, but it's so blatantly obvious and it's all over the place. I figured, why not? I'm going to share my 2 cents. So just to start it off, I want to say, when I was growing up, or in general, to me, I thought science and journalism was questioning things. I thought that's what questioning things was. That was science and journalism. But now, if you question anything, it's called a conspiracy theory. To me, that was journalism. That's what journalism is. That's what science is. But apparently, the mainstream media has convinced everybody to think that questioning things is a conspiracy theory, and it's a right-wing, fabrication of some sort. It's bizarre to me. But anyway, so Steve Scalise was a Republican House whip, they call him, who was shot and airlifted to the hospital. And here's a few things that I wanted to share, because it's pretty obvious to me, but I'm gonna pretend like I don't know what's going on, because apparently knowing what's going on is not appropriate. But the shooter had a list in his pocket, apparently, of people that he was specifically going. They're saying that there were a bunch of Bernie posters all over his house, and seems a little suspicious to me. I know I posted about it, and people were like, that seems a little suspicious. At first, I got a little emotional, and I blamed Bernie and his supporters, and I apologize for that. I was just caught in the moment, and that's how they get people caught in emotion, so I apologize for that. I really do. But what really, really struck me as bizarre in this investigation, or I'm sorry, in this whatever it was, shooting, was that Donald Trump brought his own doctors to the hospital to visit Steve Scalise. He brought his own doctor. Who does that? A lot of people were upset by it. To me, it's very telling, but I saw on Twitter a New York Times and a CNN, or was it Washington Post? I don't know. They all seem the same to me. For accuracy reasons, we'll just say who cares. But multiple reporters saying, why is Trump bringing his own doctors? Like, they were upset that he was bringing a doctor to further assist. So lo and behold, today, the doctor who was in with Steve Scalise comes out and does a press conference, and his name is Dr. Jack Sava. Jack, S-A-V-A. And this is the same doctor that people have been talking about for months, that operated on Seth Rich, who, like I said, I stopped talking about it because when I was growing up, journalism was talking about things and questioning things. But with this Seth Rich thing, I've never seen anything like it. They say, if you talk about Seth Rich, you gotta shut up. You can't talk about it. It doesn't exist. It never happened. We don't want you to research it. We don't want you to question the official narrative. So, I followed suit. I said, I don't want to talk about Seth Rich anymore, because these people are clearly such psychopaths that they're willing to take down any news publication or person who stands in their way of lying about it. So I gave them that. I'm like, here, you can have that. I'm not going to crack the case. I'm not an investigative journalist. Whatever. There's a lot of people investigating it. Good luck to them, and hopefully they find something to bring true justice, no matter which way it falls. But for months now, on Twitter, on Reddit, all over the internet, they've been talking about Dr. Jack Sava because a story surfaced, let's call it, for accuracy reasons, a conspiracy theory. Let's call it a conspiracy theory, because right now it's a conspiracy theory. Someone came out and said that it was the weirdest operation ever, that they worked at the hospital with Seth Rich. And once again, this is not confirmed. I'm going to call it a conspiracy theory for accuracy rating. But they claimed that at the hospital, they were shutting everybody out of the room, and Dr. Jack Sava was the doctor that operated on Seth Rich. And they did research on him, and they found ties to lobbyists, to Democrats. So this Dr. Jack Sava guy who operated on Seth Rich apparently had a lot of ties to lobbyists and Democrats. And something that is true, this part of the Seth Rich conspiracy is not a conspiracy, is that Seth Rich was alive and talking when he went to the hospital. He apparently, according to police, this is documented, you could look it up and determine whether you believe it or not, but it was said that Seth Rich was talking and alive and fine on his way to the hospital. He was even saying he didn't even know he got shot. So, you know, he goes to the hospital, and I'm not ruling it out. I don't know the story. I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to investigate and pry and, you know, try to ruin people's lives. It's not that serious to me right now. I'm not that type of person. But Seth Rich was alive. He goes to the hospital. He goes to Dr. Jack Sava's room, and all of a sudden he's dead. Am I saying that this doctor killed him? No, absolutely not. I wasn't in the room. I don't know this doctor. I don't know the real story. I don't know whether this is true or not. But officially, even with mainstream reports, is saying that Seth Rich was alive on his way to the hospital. So at least that we know. He was alive. He goes to the hospital. He's dead. A weird part about that too is, I mean, body cam footage about Tiger Woods comes out a week later. Body cam footage about all the police murders, they always surface. Body cam footage of Seth Rich and all of the Seth Rich footage doesn't exist, even though he was alive while he was going to the hospital. But like I said, forget it. You know why even question that? It's a conspiracy theory. I'll agree with you. Yeah, there's nothing fishy there. It's a conspiracy theory. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to be a target to these people who clearly don't want to do journalism anymore, and it's not my lane. So that happened. And I ignored that because I'm like, who is this Dr. Jack Sava guy? I don't care. I'm not trying to get into it. I see how crazy they are and how attacking they are of any news sources who even mention it. I see how ruthless they are. I mean, to me, that's very telling, but to other people, no, it's a conspiracy. Don't talk about it. Science and journalism don't exist anymore, so sure. All right. Weeks later, all of a sudden, Dr. Jack Sava is the same doctor that operated on Steve Scalise. And Steve Scalise was apparently okay and laughing and fine, according to some reports. And once again, look it up yourself. I'm not claiming to be the all-bearer of truth and information. You could look into it. But he was alive and fine. He's still alive. He's in critical condition. Hopefully he's getting better. I haven't seen an update on it. But he goes to the hospital, and Donald Trump, and it's the same doctor that operated on Seth Rich. I'm not blowing up the conspiracy. I'm going to say this a million times so I don't get targeted. You know, I'm just throwing it out there. It's the same doctor. It is. And Donald Trump brought his own doctor to the doctor's room. He brought his own doctor. And reporters were bashing him. How dare, why would Donald Trump bring his own doctors? And I'm not even going to speculate because like I said, that used to be journalism, that used to be science, questioning things, you know, doing investigations. But I'm not an investigative journalist. I'm not trying to mess with the flow of the universe right now. You know, it's going to uncover itself. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to break open this story and make a huge thing. But, I mean, this is reality, that it's the same doctor that people have been talking about for months that I've been ignoring. And Donald Trump brought his own doctors to the hospital. Once again, I don't know this doctor. I don't care to know him. God bless this doctor. God bless his family. God bless Steve Scalise. God bless Steve Scalise's family. God bless Donald Trump. And God bless the doctor that Donald Trump brought to the operating room. But to me, there's so much 1111111. And the real teller to me is, you know, when it comes to Donald Trump or it comes to conservatives or Republicans or Bernie Sanders supporters and progressives, the media has no problem pushing the envelope. They have no problem demonizing people. They have no problem calling people racist, sexist, xenophobic, losers who live in their parents' basement. They have a name for everybody. So they have no problem attacking progressives. They have no problem attacking conservatives. But anytime it's a story that doesn't quite go their way, all of a sudden, it's a wild conspiracy and there's no, journalism doesn't exist anymore. When James Comey writes a memo, gets fired and publishes his memo that says virtually nothing, they blast it out like it's breaking news. It's on Twitter, they're live streaming the Russia Council like it's the Super Bowl. That's A-okay with them, you know, whatever. But when it comes to Seth Rich or Steve Scalise, all of a sudden, you know, let's not look at the facts, let's not look at the evidence, let's not try to put pieces together, let's ignore it, and let's attack anybody who even mentions it, who even talks about it. That's their strategy. So to me, as an honest human being that isn't Democrat, isn't Republican, isn't conservative, isn't progressive, I'm just observing, to me it's very telling that they're attacking anybody who questions that. Because if you're a conspiracy theorist and you say, I think Donald Trump peed on Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Putin peed all over his hotel room, the mainstream media says, sure, yeah, we'll publish that article, even though it has no basis, no reality, no factual basis. They're like, yeah, we'll talk about Trump peeing all over the place. Why not? But when it comes to 18,000 facts stacked on top of facts, stacked on top of facts, stacked on top of facts, stacked on top of evidence, stacked on top of disappearing laptop, stacked on disappearing body cam footage, stacked on, a story that people have been talking about for months now resurfacing, and including Steve Scalise, to me, it's very suspicious. But like I said, this is the first and last video I'm going to talk about it. I stopped talking about Seth Rich a month ago. Is it because I don't think there's more to be uncovered there? No, absolutely. I know there's more to be uncovered because everybody knows there's more to be uncovered, because Seth Rich is an unsolved murder. It's unsolved. If it was solved, there'd be nothing to talk about, but it's not been solved. So, but my place is, I do a lot of things. I'm not an investigative journalist. I'm not trying to go into that because, to be honest, in certain areas of the world, if people investigate, they end up missing or they end up committing suicide. They're like, oh, what do you know? They killed themselves. For the record, not that it matters, not that I'm worried, but I'm very happy, I'm very blessed. I don't take medication. None of that applies to me, so I'm not even remotely depressed. I love my life, and I'm a very happy person, but it seems like anytime somebody gets real deep down the rabbit hole or gets into certain investigations, it's like, they decided to kill themselves and it's a conspiracy. So that's my reasoning. I'm like, you know what? It's not really worth it on this one. I see what they're doing to Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity's been talking bizarrities his entire life. He's been talking pro-Trump, pro-George Bush. He's been talking go to war. He's been talking blame them. Sean Hannity's been spouting whatever he wants his whole life. He mentions Seth Rich one time, and the whole world attacks him. Every media attacks him. His sponsors attack him. He gets threatened to get kicked off Fox. I mean, it's obvious to me. Journalism for that story doesn't exist. And for the Steve Scalise story, that was just an interesting thing to me. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are talking about Steve. It's a bipartisan issue where, it's just good people, or in general, we never want to see violence in the political system. We want to see a little more honesty and, truth and maybe accountability as far as some politicians, but I don't think we want people open firing on anybody. So, to wrap it up, I just wanted to talk about those few revelations to the Steve Scalise situation. I would say check out more of that on your own. This is the first and last time I'm going to talk about it. I'm not going to mention Seth Rich anymore. I'm not going to mention the Steve Scalise situation because, once again, I'm not an investigative journalist. I have no desire whatsoever to really pry into it and see who's doing what. Much love to all the people involved. Much love to the doctor. Much love to the Democrats, the Republicans. I don't really, there's always madness going on every day. There's people being born. There's people dying. There's war. There's peace. There's love. There's hate. That's the reality of the universe. I'm not trying to mess with the flow. I'm not trying to dive in deep and hold anybody accountable. It's all love. I'm not anyone's enemy, and I would love to have a conversation with someone, have a good time, rather than try to ruin someone's life. That's not my place. I'm not a threat. I'm not anyone's enemy. So this is the first and last time I'm going to say it. I'm just putting one and one together, and I thought it was very interesting that Donald Trump brought his own doctor to the hospital, and I think CNN thought it was interesting, Breitbart thought it was interesting, Washington Post thought it was interesting, NBC thought it was interesting. Everybody's talking about it, so I'm going to talk about it as well. I thought it was very interesting that someone would bring their own doctor to the same doctor that's been talked about for months. But once again, whenever you're in the spotlight, even as a doctor, as a politician, there's going to be conspiracies, there's going to be stories, there's going to be information, there's going to be flaws. And I would love to see a world that's a little more kind and compassionate and that works to help people as opposed to attack people. Because I want to say before I leave as well, it's easy to attack a politician, it's easy to attack a doctor, it's easy to attack a public figure. That's easy. It's easy to drag somebody down, especially in the age of information and cell phones and computers. If you dive deep into anybody enough, if you dive deep through people's text messages, if you dive deep through people's emails, you're going to find something you didn't want to see. And in that sense, I have compassion for even the Democrats who had emails leak. Albeit I don't agree with a lot of what they were doing, that's the reality of it. And I have compassion for, you know, the left and Democrats when their stuff leaks and stuff, and I have compassion for the right when they, you know, frame Donald Trump and make him out to be a monster, when we all know that if any of our stuff leaked, our whole lives leaked, there's going to be things that we didn't want people to see. We have a private life, everyone makes mistakes, so I would love to see a more compassionate and peaceful society where instead of trying to drag all of each other down, you know, rip each other out of the spotlight and say, you did this, you did that, you did this, I would love to see more communication, more conversation, and more understanding and more rehabilitation to get to the right place, because I think it's a dangerous setting when you have two very volatile sides and you have Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, progressives. I think this way, I think this way. I like Trump, I hate Trump. I think it's a very dangerous precedence because everybody's trying to drag each other down, and that's something that I'm trying to get away with my reporting. Even when I question things, I do that because to me that's science and that's journalism. It's all love. I think questions are an important part of society. So I like to question, but I always like to, you know, overarch it together with love and compassion and understanding, because I think that's missing from politics and from journalism. I think a lot of journalism on both sides, they're very aggressive, they're very negative, I want to drag people down. I watch a lot myself. I watch a lot of news reports where they do that type of stuff. You know, they're very, very attacking. But to me, that's just not my vibe. That's not who I am as a person, and that's not my lane. So to each their own. God bless everybody, and let's continue to progress and advance, and, you know, live a beautiful life. These are the greatest times to be alive. Speedy recovery to Steve Scalise. And speedy recovery to anybody who's in any hospital. Healthcare is a disaster in the United States. It's going to be if they pass the bill. I saw a friend post a status recently talking about, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. He had to pay a couple thousand. You know, I have a lot of sympathy, compassion for people, anybody that has to deal with any hospital or any sort of tragedy in the United States. So that's this report to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you listening. Share this video if you think it's some interesting information that people should at least consider. And as always, have a good weekend. Thank you for joining.